At the bottom of the world, there is a continent that almost nobody has ever visited. It is larger than Europe, it is colder than anywhere else on Earth, and it holds a secret that affects every person alive. Antarctica holds 26.5 million cubic kilometers of ice. That number is almost impossible to visualize. So here's what it means: if it melted completely, global sea levels would rise by 58 meters, permanently. 58 meters, every coastal city on Earth underwater, every river delta submerged, every low-lying nation gone, the map of the world redrawn more dramatically than at any point in human history. London, New York, Shanghai, Mumbai, Los Angeles, Buenos Aires, Cairo, Bangkok, every one of them permanently beneath the ocean. And that is before we get to the other consequences. The sea level rise is just the beginning. In the next 8 minutes, we go through every consequence: the sea level rise, the ocean circulation collapse, the climate disruption, the ancient world revealed beneath the ice, and what the science says about how close this could actually be. Antarctica is the 5th largest continent on Earth, larger than Europe and larger than Australia. Most people imagine it as a small frozen island at the bottom of the globe. The reality is a continent of extraordinary scale. The ice averages 2.3 kilometers thick. In places it reaches 4.7 kilometers. The weight of this ice has pressed the continent beneath it below sea level. Remove the ice, and the land itself slowly rises over thousands of years. Antarctica is technically the world's largest desert, receiving less precipitation than the Sahara. The ice did not fall recently. It accumulated over millions of years. Some of the ice is over 800,000 years old. Ice cores drilled from Antarctica contain air bubbles, samples of Earth's ancient atmosphere trapped in ice for hundreds of thousands of years. Antarctica is our planet's most complete climate record, a frozen library of Earth's history. Antarctica sustains an extraordinary marine ecosystem. The cold, nutrient-rich waters of the Southern Ocean, maintained by the ice, support penguins, seals, whales, and the krill that underpins the entire Southern Ocean food web. Beneath the ice, there are lakes, over 400 of them. Lake Vostok is the size of Lake Ontario and has been sealed beneath 4 kilometers of ice for 15 million years. The life forms within it have evolved in complete isolation. Nowhere else on Earth. Antarctica drives global ocean circulation. The cold, dense water it produces sinks to the ocean floor and flows northward, driving the deep circulation that distributes heat and nutrients around the entire planet. It is the engine of the world's oceans. Antarctica's white surface reflects 80% of incoming solar radiation back into space. This albedo effect cools the entire planet. Remove the ice, replace it with dark rock that absorbs heat, and global temperatures rise further in a self-reinforcing feedback loop. The melt begins at the edges. Ice shelves, the floating extensions of the ice sheet that act as buttresses holding back the land ice, begin collapsing. Without them, the land ice accelerates toward the ocean. The West Antarctic ice sheet is the most vulnerable. It sits on bedrock below sea level, meaning warm ocean water can reach its base and melt it from underneath. Scientists believe its collapse may already be inevitable. As ice melts, enormous volumes of fresh water pour into the Southern Ocean. Fresh water is less dense than salt water. It sits on the surface and disrupts the mixing processes that drive deep ocean circulation. The thermohaline circulation, the global conveyor belt of ocean currents, begins slowing. It is powered by cold, salty water sinking in the North Atlantic. Fresh meltwater from Antarctica dilutes the salinity and reduces the sinking. The conveyor weakens. The Gulf Stream weakens. The warm current that gives Britain temperatures 10 degrees warmer than its latitude would suggest begins slowing. Northwestern Europe, despite global warming, begins getting colder as its oceanic heating system fails. The sea level rise does not happen overnight. It unfolds over centuries to millennia. But the commitment to it, the point of no return, comes long before the full rise is reached. Once the ice sheet destabilizes beyond a threshold, the outcome is locked in regardless of future action. Coastal cities begin planning managed retreat. The largest human migration in history begins, not in a single dramatic moment but in a slow generational withdrawal from coastlines that are no longer safe or viable. Bangladesh faces existential threat. Large portions of the country sit within meters of current sea level. Tens of millions of people face displacement. The human cost of Antarctica's melt is felt most severely by the nations that contributed least to causing it. Pacific island nations disappear entirely. Tuvalu, Kiribati, the Maldives. Nations whose entire territory sits within meters of current sea level. The people survive, but their nations, their ancestral lands, their cultures tied to specific places, gone forever. The Nile Delta disappears. One of the most densely populated and agriculturally productive regions on Earth, feeding much of North Africa, submerged beneath the Mediterranean. The food security of an entire region erased. Florida is almost entirely submerged. The entire southern peninsula disappears. Miami, one of the wealthiest cities in the Americas, is gone. The transformation of North America's geography is permanent and complete. Europe's coastlines are transformed. London is underwater. Amsterdam is gone. Large portions of the Netherlands, Belgium and northern Germany are submerged. The North Sea expands dramatically inland across northwestern Europe. Asia loses its most populous coastal cities. Shanghai, Bangkok, Ho Chi Minh City, Jakarta, Dhaka, the most densely populated coastlines on Earth submerged. The displacement of hundreds of millions of people, the largest forced migration in human history. But here is the unexpected consequence. As Antarctica's ice retreats, land emerges. Ancient mountains, deep valleys, a continent the size of Europe opening to human activity for the first time. New land at the very moment the world needs it most. Antarctica without ice is an extraordinary landscape. A mountain range comparable to the Alps, ancient river valleys carved before the ice arrived, plains that have not seen sunlight in 34 million years. A new continent, revealed. Scientists have mapped Antarctica's bedrock using radar surveys flown over the ice. The hidden landscape is extraordinary. Mountains rivaling the Alps, canyons deeper than the Grand Canyon. A geography as complex as any on Earth, just invisible. At the center of Antarctica, buried under kilometers of ice, is an entire mountain range the size of the European Alps. The Gamburtsev Mountains, never seen by human eyes, known only through radar signals bounced through kilometers of ice. Lake Vostok, larger than Lake Ontario, has been sealed beneath 4 kilometers of ice for 15 million years. The water within it is liquid, kept from freezing by geothermal heat from below. Whatever lives in it has been evolving in complete isolation since before humans existed. Scientists have carefully drilled into subglacial lakes, finding microbial life in water that has been sealed from the surface for millions of years. The organisms found are unlike anything in the known biosphere. Ancient, isolated, unique. The rocks of Antarctica contain extraordinary fossils, evidence of tropical forests, dinosaur bones. The continent that is now the coldest place on Earth was once covered in lush vegetation. The deep time history of Antarctica is a story of transformation almost beyond imagination. Beneath the ice, significant mineral resources, coal deposits, iron ore, potential oil and gas reserves. The Antarctic Treaty currently prohibits mineral exploitation, but a melted Antarctica would face enormous pressure to open these resources to extraction. 7 nations have territorial claims over Antarctica. The Antarctic Treaty System currently sets those claims aside, but as ice retreats and land becomes accessible, the geopolitical pressure on that treaty system will intensify dramatically. The melting ice releases more than water. Ancient viruses and bacteria preserved in the ice for hundreds of thousands of years are being released as permafrost and glacial ice melt, organisms that modern immune systems have never encountered. The albedo feedback accelerates global warming further. Dark Antarctic rock absorbs 90% of incoming solar radiation, compared to 20% absorbed by the ice it replaces. The warming accelerates. The feedback loop tightens. The Southern Ocean ecosystem collapses. Krill, the tiny crustaceans that are the foundation of the entire Southern Ocean food web, require cold salty water to thrive. Warmer less salty meltwater devastates krill populations. Penguins, seals and whales lose their primary food source. Antarctica is the windiest place on Earth. Wind speeds exceeding 320 km per hour have been recorded. Katabatic winds, cold dense air flowing off the ice sheet, can reach hurricane force without any storm system present. The coldest temperature ever recorded on Earth was -89.2 degrees Celsius, at Antarctica's Vostok Station in 1983. At that temperature exposed skin freezes in seconds. Metal becomes brittle. Fuel thickens. The cold is almost incomprehensible. Antarctica is the highest continent on Earth, with an average elevation over 2,300 meters, higher than any other continent. The thin air at altitude combined with the extreme cold makes it the most hostile environment on Earth's surface. Antarctica experiences 6 months of continuous daylight followed by 6 months of complete darkness. The polar organisms that survive there have adapted to extremes of light and dark that no other ecosystem on Earth experiences. The ozone hole, the seasonal depletion of the protective ozone layer above Antarctica, was one of the first major planetary environmental crises humanity identified and addressed. The Montreal Protocol has begun closing it. A rare environmental success story. Antarctica is the only continent with no indigenous human population. No native people have ever called it home. Only rotating scientific personnel occupy it, making it the last truly uninhabited continent and one of the few places on Earth genuinely untouched by human civilization. Over 70 research stations from 29 countries operate in Antarctica. The international scientific collaboration happening at the bottom of the world is extraordinary, and the science conducted there has transformed our understanding of climate, astronomy, geology, and biology. Antarctica is the world's best meteorite collection site. The ice sheet collects and preserves meteorites from across the solar system, concentrating them in specific locations where glacial flow brings them to the surface. Scientists have recovered over 45,000 meteorites from the Antarctic ice. The Antarctic ice sheet stores 800,000 years of climate history in its layers. Every volcanic eruption, every climate shift, every change in atmospheric composition, all of it preserved in annual layers of ice that scientists can read like pages in a book. Antarctica is already melting. The ice sheet is currently losing about 150 billion tons of ice per year, and the rate is accelerating. This is not projection. This is measurement. The process has already begun. Full melting would take centuries to millennia, but the commitment to significant sea level rise is already locked in by current warming trajectories. The question is no longer whether sea levels will rise substantially, but how much and how fast. But the difference between outcomes is enormous. The difference between 1 meter of sea level rise and 5 meters is hundreds of millions of people. The decisions made in the next decade determine which world the next century inhabits. Antarctica exists at a scale and in a silence that makes it feel eternal. Ancient ice, untouched rock, the most remote place on Earth, but it is not eternal, and what happens to it happens to all of us. The ice of Antarctica is not remote from your life. It regulates the climate that grows your food. It drives the ocean circulation that moderates your weather. It stores the water that determines the coastline your city sits on. It is part of your world whether you ever see it or not. The outcome is not yet determined. The science is clear that action taken now meaningfully changes the trajectory. The ice sheet we hand to the next generation depends on choices being made right now, in every country, every boardroom, every election. The most important landscape on Earth for the future of human civilization is one that almost nobody has ever visited. At the bottom of the world, silent, ancient, and still, for now, frozen. That is what If Lab does every week. We take the forces shaping your future, and we make sure you understand what is actually at stake. New mind-blowing science every single week. If this video changed how you see Antarctica, subscribe right now and hit the bell. Every week we go deeper into the systems that determine the future of this planet. Next on What If Lab, what if all the world's rivers dried up? Every river on Earth gone simultaneously. The consequences reach further and faster than you are ready for. That video is live and waiting for you right now. Tap it, and we will see you on the other side. Watch next. Subscribe. And remember, the ice at the bottom of the world is keeping your world exactly as you know it.